Hello, McSweeney's. Everything working here? Yeah, it seems like it. Hello, McSweeney's followers. Hello to the internet. I am Mikkel Rosengaard. I am one of the contributors to the new issue of McSweeney's, issue 63. And I will read from my short story for this magazine called The Mating Call, and take some questions for you guys. But first, I'll say a few things from the people behind McSweeney's. So this is the first of the virtual readings for issue 63, which is part of a reading series that has been ongoing for more than a year since the start of the pandemic. So you should also check back for all the past readings that has been happening over the past year, which you can see through the McSweeney's profile. They're all stored there on the McSweeney's account. You should also be checking back for more readings throughout the month of May, as the different contributors to the new issue will be reading. Tomorrow we have Esme Wang will be reading from her story Peony at the same time, also here on this account. So again, my name is Mikkel Rosengaard, and it's a really big honor for me to be here and have something in McSweeney's. When I was just a wee little teenager, I remember reading Dave Eggers' debut novel, a heartbreaking work of staggering genius, and was totally blown away by the novel, and also by the chapters of him describing him starting this magazine in San Francisco all by himself without any money, making all these weird experiments, making this crazy sounding magazine. And for me, coming from a small provincial town in Denmark, that just sounded so romantic and like this kind of ideal life, working with literature, experimenting with the form of it. So to actually have something in this magazine is really amazing. And when I first arrived in New York in 2010, I remember seeing the magazines in the bookstores in McNally Jackson and just being blown away by the format of it. So yeah, I'm really honored to be able to contribute to the magazine today. Before we move on, McSweeney's also has a special promotion for these readings, for the subscription to the quarterly. It's a 20% discount if you sign up after this reading, and the code for signing up is wood carving, all of it with small letters. And I think the McSweeney's also post this code on a story afterwards. Okay, so enough of the introduction, and I'll read a few minutes from the Mating Call here, which is the first story in a new body of work for me, a new body of work that explores the lives we live online and what it means to filter life through the digital, what it means to see and hear and love and feel life through the digital. And it's called The Mating Call. On the internet, as you probably know, there was a copy of a South Seas island where everything was rendered in natural size and so lifelike that it looked like the genuine thing. The real island is one of the prettiest in the world. A landscape of swaying palm trees, white sand beaches, teeming coral reefs under an azure sea, and so far away and so difficult to reach that only the very rich can get there. That is precisely why the art collector commissioned the copy. He wanted everyone to see it, even the poor who never have a chance to travel. On the art collector's island, you could see all the wonders of the South Seas. Waves always lapped gently against the beach. The sky was ever blue. Yes, the island was so artfully rendered and stretched so far that not even the animator had been to all its corners. In the jungle, you could see the strangest orchids. Monkeys howled from the canopy. And if you kept on walking, a path led up through the hills to a caldera lake that was deep and blue. Old trees were mirrored in the water, and among the branches lived an oo bird who sang so wistful a mating call that even a young gamer playing a tournament late at night stopped his game and listened when he heard the oo calling from the open tab. Holy shit, what a beautiful song, he said. Visitors came from all around the internet to admire the island's beaches and jungles and the caldera lake. And if they happened to hear the mating call, they breathed, beautiful. The visitors told their followers about the extraordinary island. They posted screenshots of the beaches and the jungles, but nothing was shared more often than the OO's mating call. Those who knew how to edit videos uploaded gorgeous shots of the island, all featuring the OO's song. Those videos spread across the world, and some of them eventually reached the art collector. He sat in his Art Foundation study, scrolling and scrolling as he nodded approvingly, because he believed in truth and nature, and nothing pleased him more than to share the true beauty of the South Seas. "Whoa, that mating call," said the top comment. "That's the prettiest thing I ever heard." "What is this all about?" said the art collector. "A mating call? And supposedly the best thing on my entire island?" And then he opened a window to the island and walked from the beach to the hills to the caldera lake. When he reached the shore, he noticed a melancholy little warble. Sure enough, it was the OO singing its mating call so longingly that the art collector drew a deep breath. Tears crept into his eyes, and then the OO song sounded even sadder and more wistful. The art collector sighed and thought about all the poor people who lived among such ugly things and would never have heard so beautiful a song if it hadn't been for his generosity. "I've never heard anything so beautiful," said the art collector. "The whole internet loves the online bird, but I would like to hear the genuine thing." The art collector chartered a flight and flew the long way to the island in the South Seas. And because he was such a generous man, he invited his colleagues and family to come along. The first day they saw the beaches and the coral reefs. "Ah," said the museum director, "I know this place. It feels exactly like I've been here before." The second day they saw the jungle. "Gorgeous," said the critic. "I'm seeing it for the first time, but it's like a déjà vu." The third day they visited the caldera lake. "Down here," cried the art collector's granddaughter when they reached the ridge. "Look, look, now we'll hear the birdie." And off she ran down the path towards the shore where ancient trees were mirrored in the lake. "No luck today, I guess," said the museum director when they had circled the lake without hearing the mating call. "Dear little OO," whispered the granddaughter. Come along, we wish only to hear your pretty song." But there was no mating call to be heard, only the wind whistling in the trees. That evening the art collector held a dinner, and the dining hall was decorated with torches and the loveliest flowers. The museum director gave a speech and declared the online island a groundbreaking work of internet art. The critic lauded the island for how closely the real jungle resembled the forests online. Oh yes, the island was certainly a success. All that was missing was the OO song. But when the art collector asked the hotel staff what time of day they could hear the mating call, they had no clue what he was talking about. They had lived in town all their life and were not familiar with the jungle birds. "How sad," said the art collector. "All this nature in their backyard, and they don't even know them OO's mating call. That's the problem with kids today. They always have their eyes glued to a screen." He sent his personal assistant to get advice on how they could hear the OO song. But where was the mating call to be found? The PA ran up and down streets, in and out travel agencies. Not a single person she met knew where they could hear the OO song. The PA ran back to the art collector and said that the mating call must be a feature fabricated by the animator. "That's how it goes with game designers," she said. "You should not believe everything they animate. It's all invention and what's called Easter eggs." "Easter eggs," said the art collector. "No, my island is an exact copy of the real island. If there's no OO in real life, there should not be one online." And then the art collector called the animator, who was so busy with his rigging and modeling that he did not hear the phone ring. "But the animator has won prizes and grants for his accurate depictions," the art collector said. "So it has to be real." "No, I want to hear that mating call." "Of course," said the PA, and once again she searched the island for the strange bird that the whole internet knew about, but no one had laid their eyes on. She walked up and down the island streets, drove down potholed streets, and clambered up muddy paths. Finally, deep in the jungle, the PA met a poor old woman. She said, "Ah, yes, the OO, of course. I knew him very well." The old woman told the story of the OO. When the white people arrived, they brought mosquitoes to the island. With the mosquitoes, diseases arrived. Every year birds died. And in the end, only a single OO was left. He lived up by the lake in a tree hollow before he died, said the old lady. And when I walked home in the evening, I would hear him calling for his mate. I had to sit and whistle a reply, because the song of the OO is a duet, and no mate would ever answer his call. Back at the hotel, the art collector nodded slowly as he listened to the story. Tears gathered in his eyes, for he knew what it was like to call out for the one you love and never receive a reply. Was anyone ever as lonesome as that poor OO? Asked the art collector, and the museum director and the critic shook their heads as sadly as they could. The next morning, the art collector woke up with a new idea. I will resurrect the mating call, he said, because he had always believed in conserving nature and in love as well. So I think that's all we can get today. But from here, the story then goes on to the art collector resurrecting the mating call, and then all kinds of things happen. Let's see if there's any questions. Let me see how this works. Oh, it's very confusing. What is this button? It means, oh yeah, okay, we have some question. And I think there's still time to add some, so you can always, add any questions if you have any. All right. So one question here. The story sounds a bit like an old fairy tale. What was the idea behind that? The story is inspired by and modeled on Hans Christian Andersen's The Nightingale. I'm from Denmark and grew up there. Spent my first 23 years in Denmark, and in Denmark, like Hans Christian Andersen is this larger than life national poet. Like we all grew up with him. We hear his fairy tales like constantly, and it's really like in your blood when you grow up. And my parents had an illustrated version of The Nightingale, so I'm like feel especially close to that story. And for those who are not familiar with that story, it's like a story about a mechanical bird and a live bird. And Hans Christian Andersen is this very romantic writer who sees the world in this very binary view. There's like the God-created real world, and then there's the artificial fake one made by humans. So I thought it was interesting to try and write a story that broke with this binary way of viewing the world. As you all know, like fairy tales are very much built on these binaries, like, man, woman, day, night, evil, good, and all these things. So I want to see, could you write a fairy tale that was like a non-binary fairy tale that didn't necessarily work within these means. So I thought, could you rewrite The Nightingale? So instead of it being like a fight between the real and the unreal bird, then the two different birds kind of would intermingle and interact with each other, and then something new would come from it. So that was the idea, writing this story, which is of course like it was difficult. It took me a long time to write it because the binary is not just like a concept. It's not just an ideology. It is also in our language. We know what night is because it's not day. We know what a man is because we know what a woman is, and the other way around. And especially when you talk about fairy tales and myths, they are very much built on these binary pairs. So it's actually not so easy to sort of break out of that binary mode. But it's a very interesting challenge, and I feel like that's one of the things that the internet helps us with, to break out of this binary thinking of of it either always being either or, which I think a lot of thinking of the internet and online and virtual life maybe was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, that you were either online or IRL, whereas as we all know today, we are both things. The real life also happens online, and you are going in and out of the screen like 200 times in a day, maybe even more. So the two worlds are intermingling and then creating something new, giving life to something completely new. All right, there was one more question. Let's see. All right. So little fiction take place online. Why do you think that is? I think, there are many reasons for that. I think, first of all, because it's very hard to write about an online world. It's like when you're writing fiction, you're already creating a fake world. You're already creating a world that the reader has to believe in. So you kind of have to create two worlds. First, you have to create the base world, and then you have to create another world that the characters in the story then go into. So you have to kind of have two layers. It's kind of hard to not lose the readers on that. It's a little bit like writing dream sequences, which is also very difficult, as we all know. You kind of like, you don't want to hear about the character's dream. You want to hear about their real life. So I think that's one of the things. And then also, I do think there has been written some things, not as much as you would think when you think about how big of a role the internet plays in our lives. But since this magazine was started by Dave Eggers, we can start with him, with The Circle, which I think is emblematic for a lot of the writing that has been done about the internet. And also earlier books back in the 90s and the early 2000s. A lot of this this early internet literature had this very dystopian kind of vibe, where the writers were kind of exploring, what if we took the internet to its fullest degree? Like, what kind of society would we get from that? Which of course made a lot of sense, and a lot of these books are very interesting. But I think we're coming to a place now where there's some space for a new, or maybe several new, internet literatures. Like we've just seen this year, there's been a couple of books out that's gotten a lot of attention, and which the critics have called like, what is it they call it, like online realism or something like that, or social media realism or something, which is then almost the opposite. Then you go in and describe a world that is just plain realism, but a lot of it takes place online. But I think there's space for like something in between, like another kind of literature that sort of looks at the internet not as a dystopian place, and not just as like a normal everyday life. Like, to me at least, what's really fascinating about the internet is sort of what it does to our world, and like what it does to our lives, that we have this amazing technology with us all times a day, and that we slip in and out of it all the time. And to me, the main thing that does is it kind of brings us humans back to sort of a pagan or a pre-modern way of thinking. Like, everybody who spends a bit of time on Tumblr or Instagram will see like all the astrology profiles, all this stuff about like witches, crystals, like so we both have that thing, this kind of the symbolics and the imagery of some of these pagan or pre-modern ideas. But just think about what you do with the phone in the hand every day. It is kind of an animistic thing we're all doing, like almost a pagan thing. We are more places than once. We send our soul or our consciousness out on a journey away from the body. Like my everyday work is I work for a museum in Ohio. I've never been to this museum in Ohio, and I know these people. I write about the art shows there, and as we all know, under this pandemic, we've been in contact with families all over the world. But it's not just like the physical thing that we are in different places. It's also that we can literally take on different skins. We can become different people. We can take on different ages. We can take on different genders. We can go to sort of where the body put the limit before. Okay, this is how we are read normally. Now we can, and we do all the time, slip in and out of bodies, in and out of skins. So I think that is the really fascinating thing, that we basically, all of us have become these mini witches or mini shamans, something that was before sort of only practiced by some very elite members of society back in the Middle Ages, is now sort of available to all of us. And this magic, or paganism, or whatever we call it, I think that has been explored very little in literature. And I'm excited to read the books the literature that is being written these years about this. That was a very long monologue. Let's maybe go a little faster. There's another question here from Raluca. Hi, Raluca. How did you come up with the premise? The premise of the story was taken from this Hans Christian Andersen idea that I want to see if you can write a fairy tale, a non-binary fairy tale. Is that possible? And the premise of the online island came from the virtual reality artist Jakob Kustensen, the Danish VR artist, who has this incredible work called Primal Tourism, which is a one-to-one copy of the island in French Polynesia, Bora Bora. So it is as big as Bora Bora. So you can with a VR headset, you can walk on it. It takes like hours to walk from one end to another. So that was kind of the premise of it, and the idea of having a bird song, like as sort of the main object in the story. This mating call in the story sort of goes in and out from the online island to the offline real island, and then back again. There's this sort of interaction going on between them that then leads to like a sort of the evolution of something new. And that idea was inspired by the VR artist Rachel Rosen, who has this piece where she taught a canary. I can never say this word. Canary. To sing in dubstep. She like kind of brainwashed this little bird to sing in dubstep. So those were kind of the early ideas that built the premise of the story. The Hans Christian Andersen's The Nightingale, and then these two VR artists that I have worked with in my non-fiction work. In my non-fiction, I write a lot about contemporary art, and especially digital art. There was a question up here from dear Nami about what do I do for the museum that I can do remotely. I'm a writer for them, so I write about the exhibitions. I write grants for them. And I help describe the exhibitions early on as they become before they kind of materialize, when you're just describing them early on. There's another question here. I heard the island in your story has been created now in virtual reality. Can you talk about that process? So Jakob's, that I just talked about before, the Danish VR artist, Jakob Kustensen, that I've written several articles about. He's really an amazing artist. You guys should check out his work. Jakob Steensen is his Danish pronunciation. He's in the beginning it was like just a VR piece, so you had to be physically present in the space where it was exhibited. But the Serpentine galleries in London, they then they invested and sort of they went in and built an online version of it that is now available online. You can download this game, and then you can. I think it's now online available to everyone. If you go to the Serpentine's website, or just Google Serpentine Jakob Steensen, it should show up. It's really an amazing experience, and you don't need the VR headset. You can also sort of in just on the screen in the flat 2D walk through this island. Jakob, he did this. Jakob and the Serpentine Galleries, they did a launch event of this island where I was invited to read the story, which was really an incredible and very weird experience. That at the time I wrote this story, it was still just a VR piece that you had to be physically present in the space for, and I imagined this island that was online and available for everyone to visit. And as the story was coming out, then this thing had become a reality. You know, it was already out there. Which is another thing that is so difficult about writing about the internet and the lives we live online, because things change so fast online that If you've written like a novel about Twitter, by the time it's out next year, the way you use Twitter, like the way the apps look, the whole infrastructure of the internet will have changed. So it is also a challenge, like finding a way to write about the lives we live online that is sort of a little more universal or a little more general than the specifics of this moment. So you have to zoom out a little bit, sort of. Unless you want to write something that's just very specifically realistic of 2021. All right, let's see if we're getting through the... I think there was one more. Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah, all right. Well, thank you guys for listening in and staying for my long monologues here. And please remember to check out all the other readers from that are coming up. We have Esme Wang tomorrow, and there are other amazing. Edgar Carret is in this piece. I'm not sure if he's doing a reading. I hope so. He's one of my favorite writers. And also, again, remember the discount that McSweeney's have, wood carving it's called. And you can sign up for a subscription for the McSweeney's Quarterly and get 20% off. And the code is wood carving. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening in and for taking your time. Bye.